Hey there, everybody inside, outside, over, under, and around the world. It seems that a lot of people like to make things more difficult than they really need to be. My name is Brett Ashton, and I want to talk to you about how simple the Constitution really is. First off, for this video, I think I need to switch to a more appropriate setting. That's better. Now let's get on with it. Why should we follow the Constitution? Over the years, I've heard a lot of people talking about why the Constitution should not be followed.
It's obsolete.
It was written by a bunch of dead white guys who were racist and owned slaves, man.
It was written by a bunch of capitalist tyrants who wanted to take all of the people's money for themselves.
Any response to most of these on my part would be well beneath my dignity. However, there is one that I will address.
But the Constitution isn't working, man.
Of course it isn't working. It's not being followed. Not even close. Sure, there have always been times where it has been violated, dating clear back to George Washington and his response to the Whiskey Tax Rebellion. While since the beginning it has occasionally been violated, it hasn't been followed in any real meaningful way since the 1860s. On the other hand, there are also a lot of arguments as to why it should be followed.
To preserve and protect our God-given freedoms from the federal government.
Yes, it is supposed to do that, but I don't think that's the best reason to follow it.
It's the supreme law of the land.
Okay, it is the supreme law of the land. Article 6, Clause 2, this Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof shall be the supreme law of the land. This essentially means that there is no higher law. Not the President, Congress, or even the Supreme Court is above it. That's a pretty good reason to follow it, but I don't think it's the best one.
It's a Christian country, and the Founding Fathers were inspired by God.
While I have great respect for Christianity and would fight to preserve the rights of anybody to follow the beliefs that they want, I think there is a good reason for people to follow it without having to rely on the faith of any religion which may or may not be theirs. Nonetheless, if Christianity is the reason it works for you, then all I can say is, God bless you.
Because the Founding Fathers were great and brilliant people who were wise and could do no wrong, and they intended for us to live our lives as they wanted us to.
Well, okay. The Founding Fathers were people. Granted, they were smart people, but nonetheless still just people. That said, I don't think they were the kind of people who believed that they had the moral authority to force other people to live their lives in any way that they said. Additionally, it is important to remember that they wanted to live their lives the way they wanted to as well. After all, they were revolutionaries. Some people think the Constitution should be followed, arguing that it is perfect because the Founding Fathers were somehow superior to the population of the country at large. I would not be one of those people. It was a great start, don't get me wrong, and there are a lot of positive points in it, but I think it would be arrogant to believe that it is perfect. Just as an example, one of the things I think was left out is that the president should be able to veto individual parts of a bill rather than having to accept or reject a whole bill on an all or none basis. Or Congress should be restrained to writing bills that only pertain to one subject per bill. There shouldn't be line items for funding cowboy poetry museums in South Dakota in a critical military spending bill. But I digress. I think that there is currently no such thing as a perfect system of governance on Earth. Until we ourselves become gods, all systems of government have some room for improvement. It's just a practical reality of the world in which we live. There is one thing that is really unusual about the Constitution when compared to most other laws. Most all laws have written into them some penalty for those who violate them. You rob a bank.
Yes.
Here's the punishment. You drive too fast through a school zone.
I love when people do that.
Here's the punishment. You murder someone.
My favorite.
Here's the punishment. But the Constitution, the highest law in the land, lacks any kind of enforcement mechanism. There is no penalty expressed within it for those in the government who violate it. Well, okay, that's not entirely true. There is a consequence. It's up to the good people of the United States to know when the Constitution has been violated and vote them out of office. In order to do this, it is critical to the maintenance of our freedom in this country to understand what the federal government is supposed to be doing by law, as opposed to what some of us selfishly want them to do. Some people might call me a radical because I'm so uncompromising on insisting politicians follow the Constitution. To those people, I have to ask a question. How radical is it to expect that people in the government actually follow the law? Is it also some radical idea to expect a police officer not to rob a bank and use the money to buy drugs to supply the prostitution ring he runs on the side?
My name is Lucifer, and I approve of this behavior.
Of course you do. Well, in the same way, I expect the people within the federal government to follow the law. While the Constitution is the supreme law, I still think that is not the best reason to expect or demand the federal government to follow it. The federal government is composed of people with all of the same flaws we all share while in the human condition. They're not special in any way. The federal government of the United States is also the most dangerous organization on Earth. I used to serve in the Navy on an aircraft carrier. Danger and threat oozes from every hatch and porthole on those things. Just one of them carries enough firepower to wipe out most countries on Earth, and the United States has 11 of them. And that's just one tiny portion of the force the federal government has at its disposal. I mean, seriously, the federal government of the United States is in possession of one of the largest collections of the biggest guns ever to exist in the entire history of the planet. You can make the claim that they are there for defense, and that's fine. But should this arsenal ever fall into the hands of an unrestrained government bent on destruction, then everybody on Earth is in serious trouble. With the hardware they have on hand, if they decided to oppress you, you will be oppressed.
I like oppression.
I've had about enough of you.
Uh-oh.
Be silent.
There needs to be something that restrains a group of people who are so powerful that they would be able to do anything they want to whoever they want. They should be restrained by law. They are the makers and enforcers of law and should be expected to follow it, just as we would expect from any police officer. So what do I think is the best reason to follow it? Here's the President's oath.
I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect,
and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
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 Notice that this oath is to the Constitution, not the country, not to come up with fresh new ideas and give the people everything they want. It is to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. The opening part of the oath for Congress is, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. This oath is also to the Constitution. The opening part of my own oath in joining the military was word for word identical to that of Congress. As for my own oath, I meant it when I took it in 1982, and I still mean it now. Even though I'm not currently serving in the military, I still carry within myself the responsibility of that oath. Of course, I no longer have to follow the orders of the President or any officers, but the support and defense of the Constitution part of it still pertains, just as it should for anybody serving in Congress. I will say to you now, point blank, that if I swear an oath to do something, especially in the name of God, I'm going to do it or die in the attempt. I expect no less from anybody in the government. There are no excuses for this. So I think the best reason to insist that our government follow it is that every single person in the government is sworn to uphold it. It's about their oaths, hopefully as honest people. It's what they all promised us they would do, without exception. It's the one thing that is universally part of all of their job descriptions. Almost every single person at any level of the government, from your local sheriff to your state representatives, to your governor, to your congressmen and senators, to the Supreme Court justices, right on up through to the President of the United States, are sworn to uphold the Constitution. Those who don't uphold, follow, and defend it are simply oath breakers. You see those words in the oaths for the military and Congress? Support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those people in the government who can't seem to follow it are the domestic enemies we need to defend our country against. This does not mean we can shoot them. I think people who take oaths then break them are rightfully possessed of a special kind of dishonor.
There is a special place in hell for those people.
Yes, there is. And government officials are under oath the entire time they are in office. Lying while under oath is punishable to the average citizens in this country as perjury. For someone in the government to not seriously follow their oaths should be considered perjury at the least and treason at the most. In all circumstances, it is a betrayal after investing them with trust. For a president or congressman, violating their oath of office doesn't always have to be the most dramatic form of treason a person could imagine. It could be as subtle as saying that the United States is a democracy, when per Article 4, Section 4, it is a republic. And make no mistake, there's a big difference between the two. Or it could be signing an unconstitutional bill into law which spends taxpayer money to support ridiculous projects having absolutely nothing to do with governance. There is only one response for a president who receives an unconstitutional bill from Congress. That response is to go totally Gandalf on it.
You shall not pass!
Veto it and send it back. Any president who signs into law something that is unconstitutional, in sailor lingo,
is a smoking dirtbag.
I don't care which party he is in. I don't care what political circumstances are happening at the time. I don't care if it causes him to lose his next election. I don't care if other politicians put him in a difficult position. I don't care if Congress supports it. I don't care how many previous presidents did the same kinds of things. I don't care how patriotic he seems or sounds. I don't care how popular he is. I don't care if he claims to love the country more than anybody ever. I don't care if he has the United States flag branded into his chest. It is a violation of his oath and a betrayal of the trust of the American people. It should be regarded as a hard slap in the face to everybody else who has ever taken an oath to uphold the Constitution, particularly and emphatically those of us who have taken the oath to defend it with our very lives. If he sits in this office, he needs to follow the Constitution and make sure everybody else in the federal government does it too. That, more than anything else, is what the job of being president is. That is the law that the American people who by their vote are expected to uphold. It is our part in this as citizens running this country to learn the Constitution and vote accordingly. I find it a sad commentary on the current condition of the United States that the first lie any president tells while in office is the presidential oath of office. The first lie told by most of Congress is also their own oaths of office. And as the American people, this is what we have come to expect. We should expect better because we deserve better.